This is the Platinum Podcast.
Rhonda, welcome to the Platinum Podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. So excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. Ever since I saw you speak at Aaron's birthday, I was like, I need powerful women. I need you on here to drop some serious value for people.
Well, I love what you do, so I'm really happy to be here and help. It's always such a pleasure, especially when you're an entrepreneur and you have others that have audiences that are just growing and building, like to really get that advice out there, the best advice. There's a lot of stuff out there that may not be the best advice. So
100%.
Right?
There's so much bad advice out there.
Yeah, that's why they listen to you, you know?
I like to think so.
Yeah.
And then once they finish listening to me, they need to listen to you
Yeah,
when they
here
got that
we
little
are.
next step up.
Right, it's good. It's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
I've got to ask, how is the Heartstrings Project going? Because you're going to first off have to explain
You
that.
just
But I actually just
gave
want
me
to know.
goosebumps when you said it.
I really want to know.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate it. And you joining us at that first event. Heartstrings Project is a charity that we are taking the children in Bali, the orphanages in Bali, because there are thousands of kids here on this island that actually live in dumpsters. They don't even have food, water, or shelter, let alone play. And there's hundreds that are in orphanages here on the island. And so what we're doing is we're working together with SOS Children's Village and helping give these children not only food, water, and shelter, but joy and play. And we're doing that through music. We know the value that music has, the frequency that music can do. Just when we listen to music, it changes our vibration. And so what we're doing is we have bought violins and guitars for these kids. There's going to be, for this first 6-month class, 30 kids that we're teaching violin and guitar. And it's really nice because we are weaving in traditional Balinese, traditional music and bringing it back into an instrument where they can play. And it's cool. So we've got 4 professional strings players that we invested in buying them new instruments that they've been playing on $200 instruments, and they're professionals. They're working with one of the top musicians, Ryan Whitewolf, and they've been filming his and recording his album, but they've been playing on $200 instruments. And I said, look, we got to make a change. We need Ryan's music, of course, to develop and be at the level that it is. He wanted to support the locals. So what we did is we raised funds to buy them brand new instruments. And in return, they're donating their time to these kids and teaching these kids how to play violin and guitar. And so the first project starts next week. We're so excited for that. And then we're going to start moving it through the regions here on the island. And that's just the start. And of course, then I want to take this project globally into all different countries because my family's lived in 57 different countries. And everywhere we go, we always donate to some type of charity or foundation. And this is now a way that we can just like expand upon it and make it global, not make it just more one-off. So it's really beautiful. It pulls at my heartstrings. My daughter, Hannah, she's 14. It was her idea to call it that, and it's just a perfect, way to live on this island and to give back and to create, a future for these kids. Because the players, they said, music actually gave them a skill, and it was more of a survival skill. It gave them actually a future. Many of these men were abandoned, they were orphans, and they didn't have even a vision of what their future could be. And then when they grabbed this instrument, they were street performers for many, many years. Even Ryan, the main musician, was an orphan, and he got into music. It changed his frequency, and then music gave him a career. It gave him a lifestyle. So it's a really nice way that we're weaving in to help these kids. And so, yeah, thanks for asking about that.
I love it. Honestly, as soon as you told me the project, you saw my reaction. You're like, Joe, do you want to come to this charity event? I was like, sold. I'll have 2 tickets now. I'm in.
So cool.
Yeah, I started playing the guitar probably about a year ago now. Yeah. And just listening to Ryan play, it just changes you. Yeah. Like that, it hits you on a whole different level. I've heard a lot of musicians, like I've gone to lots of live events and I love live violin, etc. But Ryan, he channels that shit, right? It comes from... And it just hits you different. Yeah. The feeling you get from his music. And I just know that if you can give that feeling onto other people who don't normally get that opportunity, there's huge power there. Yeah. And it's absolutely magical. How did you and Ryan get together? How did you meet?
Yeah, I met him a couple years ago and we just crossed paths. And then I met him through another group and he was starting to talk about the work that he does and his story. And of course, being in branding, stories are everything, right? I mean, if you can tell a quality story or tell your story with true authenticity, people lean in. And he started telling me how he was taken from his mother at 6 weeks old at a bus stop. And he started to share how music changed his life and the work that he's done in the Amazon and in Mexico with these indigenous people. And he started to go from like metal music into, indigenous heartfelt music that was to change the frequency of the planet and give an offering to Mother Earth and to this creator. It's like, wow, this man is so incredible. And so I just leaned in and started learning more about him. And he became such a primary force inside of my family and really helped even our family to, shift the way we were doing things and how our relationship was just, by the sense of who he was. And so, yeah, we just became very, very close. And I said, look, how can I support your music? And from there it just developed. I did a big concert at my villa, and we brought the royal family, one of the kings in Tebanon to come. And it just it just expanded. And we saw the difference it was making. And this was right when this whole coronavirus thing started. And everyone was in a really disarrayed kind of place. And it gave people purpose, and it gave my family and me purpose, right? To say, gosh, if we can just channel, and give gratitude to what we've been given, we're going to understand what's going on in the world and that we've been taking advantage of this planet, And so now if we can give back more, Mother Earth, the creator, and whatever, you believe in is going to come and give back to you. So that's how it started.
I love that. You touched on so many interesting topics there. What is it to you about music and those types of feelings that you can get, even when you're in times where there's so many real world problems? Maybe you don't have enough money to eat. Maybe you're extreme poverty, which is the case for so many people here in Bali. What is it to you about the power of music that can really tap in and have such a positive impact on people?
That's a really good question. I mean, if you think about how music just shifts your energy and your emotions, like you could be having a really rough day and you turn on your favorite jam and all of a sudden, boom, serotonin levels rush, you get those endorphins and it changes and shifts you. And I've always used music for that. And, especially when you're working, and entrepreneurs, we're all pretty much working in on our own island. And so to utilize music to shift, it really creates a psychological play, right? That's why ads and, big companies use music, and we use image, and we use story for you to lean in. And, kids learn from stories. Kids learn from music. So we have nursery rhymes. We have all these lessons through song and through music, because that's how our bodies actually remember things and we get connected emotionally to things. So, music is the foundation for so much in our bodies that we don't even realize.
I love how you've moved on right into entrepreneurship here. It's beautiful. It works so perfectly. Yeah. Because I've always said people don't buy products and services, they buy feelings.
Yeah, that's it.
That's the reality, right? You're in the marketing game. So that's your world, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting when I wasn't always an entrepreneur. I was a big, hard-ass corporate executive.
You're still in there. Well, I could still feel it in there.
I'm still a hard ass.
Still hard.
There's a lot of soft heart around it, so you shift a bit. And that's, when I was in corporate, it's that whole game that everyone plays, right? You're stepping on someone else to get a promotion. You're trying to be better than everyone else. And that just isn't a good emotion to feel. I mean, there is a frequency that you have when you are acting in that state. And however successful I became, I was starting to become more empty. So as I climbed that ladder, I was becoming harder and harder and less emotional. And it's interesting because I am such a hard ass. I don't lean into that whole feminine side. But what I realized is that by not balancing, I was becoming someone that really wasn't making an impact. So here I was, in fact, there's a story that took place, and I think many of your audience will relate to this, is we had our meeting at 7 a.m. I lived in San Diego, so I was driving an hour in traffic, and I'm just thinking about all the stuff and my numbers and this and this and this, all this hardcore stuff that I had to do that day. And I'm sitting in a meeting, and my boss is this perfect blonde bobbed hair woman, bangs, the shoes match the bag, and lips are super tight, and she starts the meeting. And this woman walks in, and she walks in about 15 minutes late. And I'm sitting here because I'm taking over her position. I'm being trained to take over the Western division of a Fortune 100 company. I was managing billion-dollar budgets. And this woman walks in. It's like everyone's like, she's late. It's like, oh my God, this is not good. And my boss stops and it's like, you're late. What if you want to keep this job, you're going to be on time. And this woman sat there and her lips started to shudder. She's like, I'm so sorry, Jane. I dropped off my 6-week-old baby off at daycare today. And it was really hard to leave this baby to come to this meeting. And I'm sorry, I'm 15 minutes late. And I sat there and my life flashed in front of me. I had just gotten married. My husband and I just bought a huge 5-bedroom house in the top of the hill in La Jolla. And we were planning on having children. And I saw my life flash in front of me thinking, if I'm going to have a child and put a child in daycare at 6 weeks old, what kind of woman am I? Like, who am I becoming? This hard-ass bitch working corporate to make money and to do this and to make this company so much money. Who am I going to become? And so my world shifted. And I went home and I said, hey, Brian, I'm quitting my job. And my husband, Brian, he's the unstoppable surfer, like super cool, cruisy guy. However, he was a robotics engineer, super corporate. And he's like, honey, I don't care if I'm my boss's boss's boss. I'll never make enough money to support us. We need your income. And I thought, well, that sounds kind of bullshit, doesn't it? There's no freedom in that. We are sleepwalking through the hallway every day, passing each other, getting ready for this job that's using us like livestock. They're using my brain, all this energy I put, I'm giving my life to these people. However, if I want to actually have a family or be a mother that raises a child, that is a contributor to the world, that wants to be a great example, am I going to be that example? And all these questions kept coming to me right in that meeting. And I went, yeah, don't worry, I'll figure it out. And my husband's like, okay, sure. So for the next 3 months, I literally started researching. And this is right when the internet just really started getting popular. This is in 2003, right into 2004. And I watched an interview with Steve Jobs. And he said, right now, if you have a business or you're an entrepreneur or whatever you are, if you're not utilizing or understanding the internet and how to reach people on a global scale, you will be left behind. That was in 2004. We're in 2021 right now. I took that really seriously. I was like, okay, Steve Jobs, I'm going to hold you to it. I'm going to figure this out. And so I did something that I would never do because I would never really consider work-at-home mom, because for me, that was like weakness and all those identities, right, that I thought a work-at-home mom was. And sure enough, I found this website, someone saying you can, sell these personal development products for like Robert Kiyosaki, Bob Proctor, Dr. John DeMartini, Joe Dispenza, all these big personal development people. And I was very big into personal development. I'm a professional athlete. I played for the women's U.S. national team, and right until we got into the Olympics, I was too old when I moved to California, and our team got into the Atlanta Olympics for softball. But I played from 6 years old all the way through till I was 25 years old. And so I was very big into personal development. So I thought, wow, if I could resell Bob Proctor's work and I can do it online and reach billions of other people that love that work, I've got something. And so I started working with Perry Marshall, who's the godfather of marketing. He actually broke the algorithms for Google. He taught me how to place Google AdWords and how to be a copywriter and how to, write copy and ads that are enticing to the click, right? Back then, none of us knew what that stuff was. And after 3 months, I was like, Brian, yeah, I'm done quitting the job. I started this company, and I hadn't made any money at the time. And my husband's like, you're crazy. You have an MBA. You're a professional, powerful woman. What are you doing this internet stuff? This is garbage. Like, my husband, right? And he's just like, nah. I said, your doubt and fear is not greater than my vision and my passion to never put a child in daycare, maintain my powerful woman status, but to still make an income. And because I took that bold stand, I was not allowing him to break it. And so sure enough, after 3 months, hadn't made a dime, didn't tell Brian I invested like $25K. I stretched every credit card. I don't recommend not telling your spouse, but I did it because I was like, I know I'm going to make it happen. Like, I'm that style. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to fucking do it. Am I allowed to swear on your show?
You can swear as much as you... In fact, I endorse
because they're
it. Please
passion
carry on.
words.
Get lively, swear, do what you want. You're more than welcome. I hope you guys are enjoying this episode of the Platinum Podcast, brought to you by Platinum University, the real-life school of mindset, online business, and financial independence. Platinum University teaches you everything conventional education didn't. We're helping thousands of people create multiple passive income streams that create more money, time, and freedom. We literally guide you through every step of the process with the help of our in-house experts and our powerful, like-minded community groups. To get 35% off your monthly subscription and permanently lock in the discounted price of $39.99 and also get access to all of our mindset, Forex, dropshipping, stocks, crypto, network marketing, and Airbnb content, visit the link in the description to join.
Good, because it matters. It's like,
get it in there.
That's the juice, right? And so I just went at it. I would stick my credit card on my knee and I was placing 3-line Google ads, like boom, boom, boom. And one day I was like, oh, fuck, I just lost $5,000 on an ad that had shit copy. So you learn really quick and you lose money that you don't have and that you're trying to prove something. And so I got really good at that. And then by the 3rd, 4th month, it was like 36K, 50K, 60, 70K, 100K. And I told Brian, look, I make enough money now. You don't have to be a robotics engineer anymore. You can just retire. He's like, where have you been keeping this money? Like, what's been going on? Are you kidding?
Don't look at the credit card statement.
Exactly,
Do not
right?
look at the fucking credit card statement.
Don't look. But I was one of the first women that made $1 million. I didn't even know what a sales funnel was, but I created a sales funnel. And this kind of really leads into the work I do now in branding, is I realize, okay, what do people want? So they're clicking on a 3-line ad because it's enticing. But if I get them to a website, I need them to really believe it and to believe in me. Back then, no social media, right? No social, no YouTube, no videos. I found this application called Audio Acrobat. And if anyone's old school, they're gonna be like, oh my God, I remember that. It was like this super wonky, app that you could upload a video to. And it had all this like weird stuff around it. And you could play buttons, all that cool stuff. And I embedded it on this website. And so people got there and I was like, hi, I'm Rhonda. I was a corporate executive. I told my story. I wanted to do this. I told this whole baby story, but I'm still a powerful businesswoman. And I want to show you how. This is what I'm doing. I'm offering these personal development products to change your mind, but I'm also going to teach you how I did it. And call this 800 number. So I went from website to an 800 number. Like, it was so ridiculous of a funnel. And all of a sudden, I've got thousands and thousands of people, men and women. What are you doing? I want this. This is my story. I was like, oh shit, it looks like I got to put together a business model.
I need a fucking team.
Exactly. I'm like, okay, I'll sell you this product. And I'm like, oh man, I got to put a business model together for this. And that's how it started. Brian retired. Money got good. Life is, where we are now, but something really bad happened to us. I don't even know if you know this.
Go on. I've got some other questions in the background, but...
Can I tell this story?
Go for it. Tell it.
Because everyone's like, oh, good for her. She figured it out.
You're on a roll.
Well, I did figure it out, and we got very cash heavy. And when you get cash heavy, you slightly get a bit cocky, right? So I've learned so much now to be very humble with money, to have a good relationship. We got super green. We're like, yes, now we're going to have this baby, right? And so we invested all this money into a golf course development. And my plan, because I do really well planning, is if I get pregnant now, within a year, I'm going to be able to rock this. We're going to sell this project, and we're going to make millions of dollars, and I'll be with her every day. Well, sure enough, we did this big investment, and I found out 3 days before my daughter was born, which was 33 days before she was due, that we were losing everything. That I drained all of our IRAs, everything we had, and I went super cash heavy, signed our name on $16 million construction homes in this golf course development, and the developer took everything. We signed off the construction loan so that he could build the homes because I was pregnant and I didn't want to be part of it. I just wanted it to happen, and he stole it all. So my daughter was born 3 days later because my stress levels went through the roof. And we had to get really clear at that point. Now what are we going to do?
I'm glad you got that one in. So I think the first point that I want to touch on is overcoming that level of fear in the unknown. So I think there's the first point in that story, you did that really well. Obviously, when your husband was saying, I don't know if this is a good idea, you found certainty in yourself and self-belief to then ignore the fear and move forward. Yeah. Now you're in that place again at this point in the story. Yeah. How did you leverage your own self-belief in that first instant to be able to push through all those fears, all of that unknown, all these other people that are saying, in this case, your husband, the person closest to you, who's saying, I don't know how this is going to work. How do you push through that? Yeah, that was a big one, because the first I was just on drive, right? I was like, I'm just going to do this. I want to prove you wrong. Now I've got this newborn baby, and I'm in this $1.7 million home. Our nut every month was $25K just to breathe, not to eat, just to breathe in it. And I'm holding this child, and I'm looking up, and I'm seeing all these things. See, because I thought the more money I made, the more things I had, the better parent I'd be, because I didn't have those things growing up. And what I realized is that we had become shallow human beings. That I was just driving for the carrot, driving for the money. No longer was it for corporate. Now it was for fame, accolades, and success. But it was almost like the same thing. I just transferred it into my new business. And so I was freaked. I was really freaked out. And I literally found myself curled up in a little ball, like, what am I going to do? You fucked your family. This big, was it ego? Did I react on ego? Did I do all this to prove people wrong and me right? But now I've got this other little human being that I set this vow to, that I'd never put her in daycare. Because I could have easily went back to corporate. I mean, I have a master's. I worked for the largest companies in the world. I could have easily went back and got 6 figures like nothing. So I had to get really, really clear on who I wanted to be and push through the fear, even though it was so crippling at the time, because it wasn't just about me anymore. And oddly enough, and I recommend people doing this, finding, especially now with podcasts, right? Deepak Chopra used to live down the street from us. I'm not kidding. That's a great neighbor. Did you just pop around there and like, Deepak, like, I'm going for a rough time, need some help? In his black Mercedes, we're like, what up, Deepak? I mean, I'm not kidding. Frank Kern lived down the street. Wayne Dyer one day was on Deepak's show, and he ran this radio show called Deepak Radio every Saturday in San Diego. And it just so happened, Wayne and Deepak were on this show, and they let you call in. And I called in, and I was like, and they're like, of course, the universe says, you're getting through, right? Because I needed, this is the message I needed. And they're like, Rhonda Swan, you're on with Deepak and Wayne Dyer. Change your life, change your thoughts, change your life. Because Wayne Dyer's book, and I recommend everyone read this, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, had just been released. And it was about how Wayne went through some of the toughest time in his life, and he shifted who he was because of his mind. Being in personal development, I got it, but I was like, fuck this, man. This guy screwed us. I am raging pissed. Like, but I know I have to do something different. And they said, I said, because I'm attached to the money, like, what do I do? And Wayne Dyer's like, no, actually, it's because you're attached to being right. All you gotta do is forgive this guy. And the moment you forgive him, you can actually start making different decisions. You made the choice. He didn't do this to you. You allowed this to happen because it was supposed to happen. You were not going to go down the right track. And I'm like, oh my God. So that was very confronting. And we got off the call, and I look at Brian. I'm like, fuck Wayne Dyer. Like, what? Deepak Chopra? What am I going to, like, this is bullshit. I didn't want you to tell me that. I wanted you to feed this ego, which was being right and just meditate and do this, right? Like, fuck, that's not going to work if I didn't change who I was on the inside. That piece is everything. That's almost a mic drop moment. We're definitely not done. I'm not done getting knowledge out of you yet, but that is the piece. Yeah. How easy is it for everybody to get so lost on a particular track based on what you think's important and what you're attached to? It's happened to every successful entrepreneur ever. Everyone's always goes off in the wrong direction. Yep. And then there's that one moment where you go, fucking hell, I've been going the wrong direction the whole time. Yeah. And it's how ironic is it that in pursuit of this thing that you want, in your case, being able to spend all of your time with your family, you end up losing that along the way because you've taken an alternative direction. Yeah. No, it was tough. And we then at that moment realized that all these things were not going to make us a better human to this child. And so that moment on June 5th, 2 days after my birthday, which my birthday's coming up, we made a decision that we were selling everything. We were letting this whole life go, and we were going to start to travel. Now, people are going to listen to this and go, oh, that must mean you had still money left.
We couldn't even afford our Skype credits because at that time I was using my business using Skype because we were the first company that was taking people exclusively on the phone, not meeting people person to person. And what I did is, because we did have a nice stuff, I fire saled everything. We just got married. I sold everything to China, the silver, everything with my daughter, these bugaboo $1,000 strollers. How bullshit we spent $1,000 on a fucking stroller, right? I sold that stuff for $300. I sold everything. Like, I let my ego down and put this big, beautiful house on a yard sale. And I yard saled everything. And on November 25th, 2008, we left with $12,072.62 left to our name, with the vision and a vow to never put my daughter in daycare. And now coming up this November, and my daughter's over here, and she's like, gives me a tear in my eye thinking, I'm looking at her face, like, she's 14 now. We left when she was nearly 1. And we've now lived in 57 different countries. We never went back. We continued to build our company and our business by telling the story. And now it's going to be 13 years this November that we left that old self, that old belief system, and are now doing our best to help change the way people think and they do things.
You're doing a fantastic job of that. I think I recently interviewed somebody they're traveling with their family. They've just started out on this journey, and I don't have children myself yet, but I've always seen people that do what you're doing. I haven't met many people as far along on the journey as you are, i.e. 14 years. Well done, I've been 14. You're probably the most impressive 14-year-old I've ever met, by the way. I've got to get that in there.
She's
like,
so awesome.
She's
You
not
gotta
14.
interview Howhonda.
Get her in here. Get her in here.
Give her a chair.
No joke.
She's epic. But like, this is the thing. This is, and it's like, this is when things drive you, right? When we get driven, we get this amazing human being sitting next to you that gives you more purpose.
What has...
Hi. Hello.
Hello, welcome to the podcast. I had to get you in here. Like,
Thank you for having me.
You're not... I've met many 14-year-olds. None are like you. Tell from your point of view, what has this journey been like? What was your childhood like?
So it's really hard to compare to other people's childhood because I only know what I know. To me, this has just been my life. This has been the way how I know life is. Like, I don't know how to compare it to anything else, so I've just grown up in this way. Traveling has definitely been one of the best decisions our family has ever made. It fuels my life, like being able to see different countries, and not just through a textbook, but through like my eyes and seeing it through my own point of view. I've never lived in one place for as long as we have recently.
Yeah, Bali's the longest. It was like 3 months, 6 months,
longest.
maybe a year in a couple places.
Yeah, but because of
life.
all the stuff that's happened recently, we've been in Bali for the past year, which is the longest I've ever lived in one country without moving anywhere. So my home has always been on the road. And I know it sounds like a cheesy country song, but that's how my life has always been. I have never really had a place to call home. So I always feel most at home when I'm experiencing something new and learning something different in life.
What would you say the difference is between reading things in school and being able to live that experience, Rhonda? What does it mean to you to be... One, what does that mean in your opinion? And two, what does it mean to you to be able to give that to your daughter?
Well, I hated history in school. I thought school was so boring, right? Because here you are just learning about this stuff. There's no retention. And now with Honolulu, to see, like, we lived in Panama, we're in the Panama Canal. Like, she's learning about these things and she's retaining it. I mean, the things that you've learned is stuff that most adults don't even know anything about, right? And so being able to show and see the world through her eyes, you look at the world very differently, right? Because as adults, we scrutinize things. We were told that, Arabs are bad, Muslims are mean, are bad. These people are, all these things that we're told growing up.
All these stereotypes that were brought upon ourselves.
Yeah.
I love this. This is a really powerful dynamic because I think so many people, it's very easy for me to get people in here who have been there and done it. You're currently living a life where your belief systems are different to what we're conditioned with. You're going through completely different experiences, and I find that interaction really, really interesting. It's almost like peeling back some of that conditioning and getting it to see at that midway point. Because I have so many people in my community who are early onset entrepreneurs. They're just getting involved in business, and it's so scary for them. But there's someone like yourself, 14 years old, who's got their own businesses, and it's all through experience and seeing a different way of life. What kind of business experience has it been like for you? I mean, so we're talking real life education here. You're getting to travel around with your mum and your dad, watching them work, be entrepreneurs, make their own visions and their own creations. What is that like?
So I've always grown up in this entrepreneurial family, as we call it. For a while, until I was probably about 6 years old, I thought my parents were computer people. And I just thought they would just like, they would have a few hours a day where they would just sit at the computer. They would do that. I'm like, okay, that's their work. And then we would go out like swimming from our like balcony or something, or like jumping off like bridges or stuff, like doing fun stuff like that. And it was always a balance between work and explore and learn and travel. And so I've always grown up with this mindset of just do whatever you want. Be the person you want to be, because when my parents were younger, they had to get pressured into this is the life you want. We've already mapped out your 5-year plan and you're not leaving from it. It's almost like a prison. And so how my parents saw this is they just wanted to rip that all away to be able to give me like, do what you want, be the person you want. Because I was reflecting on this just a little bit ago of just like ripping away all of the like pressures onto yourself and all of the expectations, and I feel like you've always wanted to give me the perfect life, and just like letting me go for things. And so I've been able to grow up in this way of life where I've been able to do what I love. And when I was around 7 years old, I got asked, what do I want to be now instead of what do I want to be when I grow up? And this was a question that my mom asked me. I remember the memory so strong. And I'm like, she's like, oh, what do you want to do? Like, what is the person you want to be? You can be anything. And I'm like, oh, I want to be a like filmer. I want to be a fashion designer. I want to be an artist, all of these different things. And so being a child without any expectations held on to yourself and without any like, other thoughts from other people or other social pressures to be a certain thing, your mind can run rampant with just everything.
Well, because kids usually say what they want their parents want them to say.
So it's like things like, oh, I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a doctor. And it's just things that
unrealistic too.
Society and social pressures have put onto yourself. So I've always been a really creative person. I've always been, ever since I was young, I've kind of just followed around my mom and dad. I was always kept pretty quiet. They said I was a pretty calm kid when I was younger. And I just loved looking around and just enjoying and really being present in the moment. And I would always draw like different people that I would see or meet or like have my own little twist on it. And so I've always been a really creative person that way. So when my mom asked me that question, I'm like, what can I be? What can I do? It opened up my whole world of imagination. And so I said I wanted to be a fashion designer. I wanted to be an artist. I want to do something creative. And so they're like, okay, great. You put in the creative efforts, you do that, and we're going to help support you and teach you along the way how to make something so you never have to work a day in your life.
What I love about that is it's so important to maintain that childlike approach to life, that kind of childlike curiosity. I fell into the trap of deciding what I thought I needed to do when I was 30, when I was 20. What the fuck does Joe, when he's 20, know about what he wants to do?
I'll be 48 in a couple of weeks.
Exactly.
Like, what am I doing?
If you can give the gift of somebody to just accept where you're at and do what you want to do now and know that things will work themselves out, there's huge, huge power in that. And I feel like you're living that right now. That's why it interests me so much. I feel like you're in a really special place with that. So what do the next steps look like for you guys as a family?
Yeah, well, I mean, and Hanalei didn't reveal this. I don't know if you know this. I mean, Hanalei's had her own fashion company when she was 10 years old.
As you do.
Yeah, as you do.
As you do.
Right?
Yeah.
She literally launched her own brand and her own company, made her first 6 figures at 11.
I'm going to pause that right now and just say to any of you guys listening right now as entrepreneurs that are going, I can't do this. It looks too hard. It's not possible. There's 10-year-olds doing it.
And
it's possible.
And it wasn't it wasn't because we gave her the money either. We didn't support it. We just guided her. Because this is so important because people go, yeah, whatever. You can do this with your parents support you.
It's funny. I love listening to origin stories of people. Like, being interested in people's stories and how they've become who they are. My origin story on how I started my fashion brand was I made keychains out of felt that looked like food that had faces on them, and I sold them to my parents' clients whenever they went to her event, because I had a great market of people who loved to support me.
Yeah, but she borrowed 20. She did borrow 20 bucks.
No, I borrowed $20. I bought a bunch of materials.
From Amazon.
To this day, I think this is my most creative way of like starting a business. But I would like tell my mom's clients, I'd be like, hey, I am a fashion designer. These are my pieces that I want to make, and if you help invest into my future, I'll like do something. And so I made them these custom keychains to like, and that propelled me into where I am today with my fashion brand.
Yeah, because you made $300. She made $300.
Yeah.
First time, and she told the story. I mean, that's why even in our company now, the brand, with how we tell people's stories matters, right? And so I said, look, all you have to do is tell your story, and if you can connect with someone. And so we prepped her for that. She got all these keychains ready. We had this event, and she's like, I'm gonna be a fashion designer. She started telling that story, and they're like, how much are they? She's like, $20. We're like, done. And then some guy gives her 100. I'm like, see, the story matters. It doesn't matter what the product is. If you can connect with people on an emotional level, they're in. Yeah. And then, you made it $300, and you made your first pattern, and you sold it. And then she made her first 1,600 at an event. And this is funny, though. This is really cool because you were flapping all your money after this event.
Were you big dogging?
She got she was big dogging the
flexing.
bit.
I was very proud of myself.
It happens to us all at some point. We all get caught in that moment. Don't worry about it. Yeah. No one's immune.
Yeah. And basically she pulled me over. She's like, hey, I gotta sit you down for a minute. I'm like, oh no, this can't be good.
She's got a bottle of Belvedere. Just sat there like, what? I'm just popping bottles. What? Like,
and so
the seat's gonna cost you.
Hey, you can't go into the VIP section. Come on. And so she pulls me to the side and she takes my money, and I'm like, oh. First off, I'm like, oh no. That's my first thought. And so then she starts going, this is for your fabric. This is for your employees. This is for your studio. This is for like all that stuff. And then she hands me back like only
it was like $300 or something.
Only $300, or like it was $100 or something.
Yeah, something.
And so like compared to all the money I make, I'm like, hey.
And the house always wins.
Yeah.
Don't forget the family tax.
Yeah. So we did the 3 piles.
And
remember?
then she's like, okay, so this is what you get. Now split it into 3. And so I made a promise before I would like start making my brand and everything that I would like have one for giving, because I told people I would be giving back school uniforms to help children in India get education. And then this is for your future. This is for any other project that you want to make in the future. If you need a little help, here's from your past self to your future self. And then for what I can spend now. And so it basically got cut entirely. I only got like 5%. I was in a little bit of a, I did make promises, integrity.
I was like, we're going to learn it all.
Damn that integrity. What nightmare.
Yeah, damn the integrity.
But you learn margins.
Yeah.
That's all, she learned how to build a business.
Not the best feeling in the moment, but it's looking on the long run.
You've learned the long-term lessons very, very early on. You've saved yourself a lot of heartache, a lot of pain, and a lot of the get-rich-quick mentality.
Right.
You've saved a hell of a lot there.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to you, Rhonda, about the power of story. This is something you talk about a lot. This is what your whole business is based on, and I'd love to hear your genius on that. Yeah,
I mean, that's one thing that most people overlook. Right, they go right for the sale. They go right like, how can I, place ads, and how can I make a sale? And when it comes to storyline, you have to think about who's that just one person. So like, this is when I said, look, who's the one person that your story can touch? Tell that story to that one person. Like that one heartache that you had, like borrowing money from your parents, the fears. Like tell that story, what you did. And that's how we work now. I mean, obviously my company, we have Unstoppable Branding Agency, works with experts, professionals, coaches, speakers, authors, and we help them not only tell their story, but get them published in top tier publications like Forbes, like Inc. magazine, Rolling Stones, all the big guys, because that's our brand elevation. But when we started, working with people is like, you need to learn how to tell your story, but not when my dog died and my grandmother and then my dad did this and all that, because that really doesn't matter. What matters is what matters to them. Like, how can someone immediately relate to you and the offer that you have can fulfill on their need, right? Can fulfill that or solve that problem. And that's the essence. It's so simple, but most people get it wrong because they're only thinking about themselves and they're thinking about putting dollar signs on people's forehead. And when you tell a story that has an ulterior motive, that has dollar signs on someone's forehead, and all you're trying to do is just get them and manipulate them to buy, now you've told the wrong story.
I love that. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
It works short term.
That's it. Short term, it can.
Every entrepreneur starts there, and I was a big victim of this myself.
Yep.
It started with a desire for power. It was an ego trip. It was all feeding my own thing, and it was looking for validation. And a big part of that is getting the money.
Yeah.
And it's when you're just looking at people as a walking, talking wallet, you're not trying to provide anything to them. You're not trying to solve any problems or like give them any value. And it just never works. And then what happens is I didn't know this at the time, but I was slowly depleting myself over and over and over again until, like you said, I suddenly became empty. And that's when I hit breaking point, had a mental breakdown. I didn't realize at the time, but I needed to reassign my values. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? What is actually important to me? And it was painful, that process, right?
Yeah, because you have to look at yourself in the mirror and go, oh my goodness, who do I see?
I suck.
You know, I suck.
Yeah.
And you're back on that hamster wheel. And that's why I think when we lost everything, when I quit my job and then we lost everything the second time, these are these lessons that show up every time. And we wonder, why does that keep showing up for us? It's because we haven't handled it. We haven't dealt with it yet.
Yeah.
And, you know, our mission was so that Hannah didn't have to peel the onion.
Yeah.
You know, she can learn, like, it was clear on the job training, you know, like you learned it.
How do you get this balance? So this is something that always interests me as not a parent. The balance between giving your child everything and all the best opportunities, but still allowing them to fall over, break that arm, suffer along the way, that they learn those lessons on their own.
Well, we always told Hannah, no matter what, we're going to provide you with the basic needs: food, water, shelter, and love. That's actually all we need to survive. That's all we need. We can literally go on an island right now. If we got food, water, shelter, and love, we can survive. We can create a life. We can have everything that we need. And the other stuff is what you need to earn. And you need to fall, and you need to try things, and you need to go for it, and you're going to be afraid, and we're here to help you if you're afraid. I mean, because those are the lessons that I needed. All we needed when we left 12, 13 years ago was food, water, shelter, and family love. That's all we needed. And we knew that because we thought we needed all that other stuff to make us who we were. And so now that's the balance, right? Now, certainly we've got a different relationship with money. And I feel that I'm blessed, and, you know, the creator, universe, whoever you want to call it, is allowing us to have that abundance because I now know how to use it. We give minimum 10% of everything we make to others. That's why Heartstrings, thank you for leading with that question.
I love Heartstrings. Why wouldn't I? That's the whole piece, right?
Yeah.
What is that? You touch on that loosely. What is that whole giving piece to you? Why do you think it's so powerful?
It allows us to give that offering back to those that are undeserving, right? And you know, I talked about this earlier about certain ceremonies and bringing spirituality back into our life. You know, I was really forced religion down my throat when I was younger. I was like, this doesn't make sense. If this God doesn't like this guy because of his color and doesn't like this person because of who they are, that doesn't sound like my God. And so I pushed it away. And I really started to reemerge, realizing the connection that we have to Source and the connection that we have to Mother Earth and the Creator is what brings that energy back and which fuels us. And so even when we didn't have the money, when we were on the road, like we had so many ups and downs on the road, like it never was easy, and it never is going to be easy. But there was even a moment when we were in Fiji, we sponsored a Fiji rugby team, the Unstoppable Islanders, and they're still our buddies. They'll still call us, right? And they needed uniforms for their big game, their match, and they were like ragged, uniforms. And so we said, we'll buy them for you. Well, we thought we were buying t-shirts. We're like, how much could it be? Maybe a couple $100. They take us to this place, and they didn't have the socks, they didn't have the shorts, they didn't have any of the stuff that they needed to actually be an athlete. And my husband and I were both athletes. We're like, gosh, they need this. And then when he told us what it was, the invoice was like $3,000. Brian looks at me. We go outside, and he's like, showed me our wallet, our bank account. We had $3,300 left. We thought we were going to give up that $300. We wrote a check for $3,000 to them because we're like, okay, we've got a place to sleep for the next month. It's living in this resort hotel, like $50 a night. We already paid for that. They give us food every day, and we've got love in our family and our hearts. We know how to make money. And it's like that law of reciprocity, right? Giving back. And the more that you create and give an offering back to others that need it, the more it's going to continue to come back to you.
I love that. And I want to talk about that superpower that you just mentioned there. It's that belief that you know that you have the skills and abilities to make what you want in the world. And if I could give that gift to people, that would be what I'd give. And I feel like that's what you get when you've put yourself in a situation where you have fuck all.
Yeah.
Your back's against the wall. Then all you have is you. And this is why you've got to acquire skills. That's why you have to get better. That's why self-development is so important, because it gives you that fire, that knowledge and that belief that you can do it in the absence of everything else. And that's what I really care about. And I would love, if there's one thing I could give to people, that would be it.
Yeah.
What would you say to people to cultivate that inner belief, to know that they can do it should they need to?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd say don't have a plan B. Everyone always has a plan A and a plan B if it doesn't work out. Just that alone is telling yourself that it's not going to work.
Oh, I love that. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I've heard that.
I heard that quote and I was like,
right? You're like,
that's so fucking true.
Wow.
I think another guy, Tom Bilyeu, that I listen to, he's got a podcast called Impact Theory, and he talks about, he's like, put your house on the line. He's like, put yourself in a position where you have no choice but to succeed. And what happens? You will pull it out of the bag. I often say to people when they're asking, oh, how are you doing, what you doing, how are you traveling, who you do? I said, just do it. I was like, your mind will always think of all the horrible things that could go wrong, but you're completely incapable of imagining all the amazing things that could go well. And worst case scenario, I'm not going to curl up in a ball on the floor and let the dogs eat me. It's not going to happen. There's always a way, right? I'd love to know what you're doing now. Tell me what the future of your brand, the future of your amazing family is. What direction are you going in right now?
Yeah, we've got a pretty cool, our family, our brand started as the Unstoppable Family. Yeah. And, that's my husband, my daughter, and I, and just our travel experiences. And our company was weaved within that. But knowing and understanding how to build brands, I said, okay, now we need to start multi-layering this brand. And so the Unstoppable Family is like our umbrella. Underneath it is Rhonda Swan, HS Styles, which is her fashion brand and her art and what she does, her styles of everything, Rhonda Swan. My husband, Brian, is the Unstoppable Surfer, right? So he just inspires people because now he gets to surf the world's best waves.
He's great.
He's rad, right? You were just free diving with Brian. Yeah. And so from there, he created, now Unstoppable Surfer created the Unstoppable Beard product because he's got a cool beard.
He's got a fucking great beard.
You know, right? He's got a super cool beard. And then, for myself, I'm also building my Rhonda Swan brand, which I'm writing a book. Women Gone Wild, The Feminine Guide to Fearless Living comes out in June. I've got another project called The Witches of Wall Street. We've got all these fabulous 7 and 8 figure plus women business owners, and we're going to tell our story of how we weave business. And we created another show inside of that show called the Diva Tank. So we're supporting other women entrepreneurs, and if we fund them like Shark Tank, we're funding a third world entrepreneur woman business as well. So that's like a really super cool project. And then our company is the Unstoppable Branding Agency. So that's kind of like, that's the foundation of what I do, but that's not like where all my passions are at, right? Like I love what we do, and we help our clients create highly positioned brands and credibility, getting them featured in big publications, helping them get Google Knowledge Panels, which most people don't even know what that is.
I don't know what that is.
Right? Like, for instance, if you Google your name right now, Joe, chances are you might have, there's these tabs. So everyone vision right now, or go to your computer and Google. When you Google your name, top left is all. That should be all the things about your website, socials, etc. Then there's this news tab. The news tab is what is talking about you now. Who's talking about you? And on the right-hand side of that, there's a box, and it's got your name and your pictures and everything about you. That's called the Knowledge Panel. It started off years ago for celebrities, high-level actors, like, so we can see, like, that's the real. That's why everyone started making their Instagram the real person, the real, Will Smith, right? Because everyone was trying to copy people, and they were taking their name. So if you don't, my best advice for people, if you don't own your name right now, go buy it right now, GoDaddy or whatever, Namecheap, own your name. Because that's your online real estate. Social media may not be around for a long time. We're all so used to the social media world. I started without it. But I learned Google because that's like our everything, right? That's like the encyclopedia of, everything that's online. Social media came into play, but now it's being suppressed. It's being stopped. The message is being, moved and it may go down. So we're Google indexing. You need to Google index your name. Create an online footprint. I call it own your real estate. And a knowledge panel is all those things that are being talked about you, your name, your company, and what you do. You need to own those keywords. And so what our company does, we work in SEO and in publishing, PR. And we start indexing people's names, getting stories told about them that are credible so that when they go to work with a client, you can say, oh yeah, well, why don't you just read the most recent article written by Forbes about me? Third-party validations, like we used to use testimonials. Okay, but you can still ask your uncle to give you a testimonial. But you can't ask Forbes to talk about you, right? Or you can't have other publications talking about you and not have someone look at it and go, oh, wow, that's powerful. That's not you standing in New York City on a soapbox going, look how awesome I am. Let me help you, right? But if you had someone else going, look how amazing that guy is. Look what they're doing for people. This is the work that they do, and it's being told in a third-party way. Now is where the credibility stamp happens. So that's what our company does. We help Google index your name, write tons of publications in PR, get you in news, start really putting together and allowing Google. We don't build knowledge panels. We create them, and as a result, a knowledge panel is produced by Google. It says that person's credible.
I love that. So what would you say are the pieces of online real estate? I love that term.
Yeah.
What are the different elements of that people really need to lock down?
They absolutely have to own their domain, their name, right?
Yep.
Buy your name, buy your company's name. Also buy keyword terms that people would be searching for. So your main asset is having the domain. Second is owning keywords. And it's not as hard as we think it is. There's a lot of social and so many algorithms. However, if you narrow down and look at what your competition is doing and own your long tail keywords, like ours, we just got put into Forbes' top PR and branding firm for entrepreneurs. My company, when people Google or search top PR and branding firm for entrepreneurs, authors, coaches, consultants, we're first. Owning that real estate is major because that's organic traffic, right? We're not having to pay-per-click, and certainly I love ads, but they don't always, translate. People are starting to get used to knowing that these are ads. They're being sold something. So you need to own your name. You need to own your keywords. Obviously, you have to have a website that's been around. You got to get it now. Start SEO ranking that website. And it's interesting because being an entrepreneur, I used to go SEO, blah, 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 whatever. That's for the big companies. Now I really get it. It's everything. And start writing articles on your website that people can actually help people. So that those keywords that they're searching for, you're injected right where they're looking. Right? So if it's how to build an online business for women, it's got to be long-tailed, very specific. How to build or how to write a book in under 48 hours, like really specific stuff. And these are what my clients do. This is the type of stuff that in the work that they do. They own their keywords. And once you own those keywords, you keep producing content about them. That's probably one of the things that most entrepreneurs miss. Blogging was such a big thing and a big deal, but they started using blogging for the wrong reason. It was just for reviews and influencer. You start using it and giving people value, you're going to start becoming that thought leader, that credible source.
I love that. I think that's huge value. I know in my own journey, I've overlooked SEO so many times because it's so easy to get distracted with the short term again, isn't it?
That's right.
Run ads, influencer marketing, it's all like instantaneous. What you're talking about here is really the long game.
Yeah.
It really is that long game. And I really appreciate you sharing that amazing information with people.
Yeah.
I think the last thing I'd love to touch on before I let you guys go, I've got to ask about the Witches of Wall Street. Tell me, because I'm
sexy.
I'm so interested. I'm so interested in women in business because I've lived in a very masculine world. I feel like the corporate world's very masculine, and I'm only just learning myself about the true power of the feminine. It's something I've had to really open my eyes to, and I think what you guys are doing there, you girls, I should say, is absolutely amazing. So please tell people a little bit more about that and what it means to you.
Yeah, for sure. The Witches of Wall Street is a project with 6 other women. We all fulfill on a very specific archetype. And, one is like the queen, the other's like the oracle. I'm the spirit warrior. Like I was a I'm a fighter. I was a badass. Wonder Woman, I really believe that they made Wonder Woman because of me. From one of my past lives. I've been Wonder Woman every Halloween since I was 6 years old. And we all fulfill in this specific archetype. And we know that there are those 6 different archetypes, present, especially among women. And so we decided to come together and actually share the journey, because all of us run 7- and 8-figure businesses. And we could be seen as this powerhouse, ball-busting, woman. However, our lives have shifted so much because of what we now have learned, and we want to showcase that and show that to other women and of other men, right? Because I was in the patriarchy. I was, in a male-dominated industry, and I acted as if. And I thought for such a long time that vulnerability and emotions were weaknesses. What I realized is that I can still be super powerful and be very vulnerable, and it's strength. Right? And it's more attractive. So that's what we're bringing together is the Witches of Wall Street. We've come together. We're going to create this reality show that showcases us and how we navigate, how we balance family, how, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a philanthropist, I'm an author, I'm a speaker, I'm a coach. I run an 8-figure company with 55 employees. How the hell do you do all of that? Right? And it's not because it's me. It's because I have the right systems. I have the right team. I have the right mind. I meditate 3 times a day. I get up in the morning, I pray to the Creator, I ask for give gratitude, make offerings. I sit in ceremonies all night, 16 hours staring at the fire, asking for guidance. Like, this is stuff that people are like, that's what that ball buster does? No way, So that's why that came about. We're going to start telling that story. And then, of course, inside is where that diva tank comes in and the give back piece. And we want to bring this to light and illuminate all of these identities that people thought or think about powerful women, and how to actually see that they're real human beings having a spiritual experience in this lifetime, and how we can continue to give back more to create and to get more. And so it's going to be very powerful. We've got I'm meeting with Kevin Harrington next week. And I'm pitching him this idea. We've already pitched the show and we got picked up, and then we went, wait a minute. You want to control the narrative of this show? You want to give us all this money, but you want to control the narrative? What if we just funded it ourselves, controlled the narrative ourselves, and shared the real message? And so that's why we're going with Kevin, because he funds companies that are very authentic and that want to make a bigger difference. And so that's what we're up to, and it's going to be amazing because we're all in Bali here. All of the women that are here in Bali, and we're going to start here, and we're going to start building this entrepreneur woman tribe of these third world country women, that giving them hope and letting them be examples to their family.
There's something powerful about Bali, right, that brings together those conscious entrepreneurs. It's magical.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to tell everybody where they can find you. Hannah, you need to say where you can be found as well. And Brian as well. Yeah. Get the whole Unstoppable family in there. Yeah,
well, we play really strong on Instagram. Unstoppable Family, Rhonda Swan, Rhonda Swan, and unstoppablebrandingagency.com is where you can find my company, the work that we do for entrepreneurs. But you just search us up and you'll see the work that I do.
Just put in that sentence, it'll be there.
Put in that sentence, to Google our name and you'll find us.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming on. And hello, thank you for jumping in as well. I had to get that in there. I had some curiosities that I wanted to clear up there. But I think you'll have an amazing impact on the world. I think you're a really, really powerful woman with a really powerful message that is helpful for so many. So keep speaking any which way you can and keep getting that message out there.
I appreciate that.
And thank you, Hannah. Thank you for jumping on as well. Really appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Joe. Be unstoppable.
This is the Platinum Podcast.